Привет! Добро пожаловать! I'm glad you're interested in learning Russian. In this free online course, I will be teaching you Russian from ground zero. If you're already familiar with basic Russian, I encourage you to go on to my other lessons. But if you are a complete beginner, then today I will start by introducing you to Russian sounds. Now, why start with sounds, you might ask? Don't we all produce the same sounds using our lungs, mouth, lips, and teeth? Well, yes, we do produce similar sounds, but the answer can also be no, because we do it differently. A lot of sounds that you as an English speaker produce are similar to Russian sounds, but they're not always the same sounds. And other sounds are entirely different. Another point I'd like to make to convince you that this lesson is not a waste of your time is the following. Except for sign languages, all human languages rely on sounds. Of course, it's possible to understand the meaning of words by using visual symbols, by reading words from the page in a book or an article, but even so, when reading silently, we still imagine a spoken word. Knowing how to pronounce a Russian word on a computer screen or a piece of paper is important. But just like in English, the correct pronunciation of words is not perfectly represented by letters. Although Russian spelling is easier to learn than English spelling, Russian spelling depends on your understanding of Russian sounds. The first step to learning Russian is to train your ear to recognize what's being said. Let's practice. Let me introduce myself in Russian. Меня зовут Константин. Меня зовут Константин. Now this time pause the video and write down what you just heard using the Latin letters. Of course. Меня зовут Константин. Let's compare. This is how I wrote it down. Меня зовут Константин. To say in Russian, it's a pleasure, you say очень приятно. Очень приятно. Take a moment to write down what you just heard. Очень приятно. Now, what sounds did you really hear in the phrases меня зовут and очень приятно? If you're a musician or just simply like listening to music, it can also be fascinating to listen to the sound of a foreign language. Like sounds in music, we perceive sounds of human speech emotionally. They may seem beautiful, ugly, harsh, soft, or, as some people say, simply strange. Moreover, when you can't tell the difference between words, the foreign phrase may seem to you like one long word. The phrase «меня зовут» consists of two words, «меня», me, and «зовут», call. But it sounds like one single word, doesn't it? Меня зовут. Okay. I enjoy reading poetry in many languages, and when I read a poem, I always ask myself, does the sound quality of a poem reflect its meaning? Is there a hidden parallelism between sounds and words? At times I even try to forget the lexical meaning in order to hear the sounds of Russian language, the combinations of sounds, and discern the hidden music of Russian language. It's very difficult to achieve because I speak Russian. But for you, it is a lot easier, in part because you experience these unfamiliar sound combinations for the first time. Take advantage of this. Hear Russian words for the first time. Experience these sounds before trying to memorize them as words. Вечер, взморье, вздохи ветра, величавый возглас волн, близко буря в берег бьется, чуждый чаром черный челн. The poet recreates the sound of the wind, sea, and of the small boat. The poet's name is Konstantin Balmont. Balmont was a symbolist poet and a translator during the late 19th and early 20th century, known as the Silver Age of Russian culture. He is remembered for his mastery of sound effects. His Russian name is written like this. and it is transliterated, meaning written using the equivalent Latin letters, like this. In Russian, Konstantin is pronounced like this, Konstantin. In both English and in Russian, the spelling of words does not represent an exact pronunciation. In English, we don't say knife, and in Russian, I don't say Konstantin. For this reason, most, if not all, dictionaries use a phonetic transcription to represent the pronunciation. In my experience, I've noticed that most people who are not language geeks or who don't really have patience for learning the International Phonetic Alphabet find there's a bit of confusion and frustration when encountering phonetic transcriptions. I don't blame you if you share this point of view, because the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet, is not intuitive, and moreover, there are many other versions of the phonetic transcription systems, including the Russian version. For example, let's go back to the sounds you've heard in Konstantin Ballmann's poem. These were sounds V, Ch, Ye, Z, O, H, I, B, K, and so on. Remember I asked you how you wrote these sounds down? Well, here are some ways you can represent them on a piece of paper or a computer screen. It's usually easy to agree on the representation of these sounds. V, Z, K, B, and so on. Notice that the way I pronounce these sounds may be different from your pronunciation, but these are close enough, aren't they? How about the ch sound? Even though the sound may be not that much different between my pronunciation and your pronunciation, it would be great if we could agree on how to present the sound using Latin letters. We will represent with this sound with a combination of letters C and H. Alright, and how about the Y sound? Just like in the word yes, we will represent it with the letters Y and E. As you can see, there are some sounds that are represented by the combination of two letters. We'll learn about these sounds in the future.